Hello and welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with your friends, get your game goodness each and every Monday. My name's Don Blight and joining me on the couch this week, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here. The countdown to Summer Games Fest continues.
Yeah, it's a quiet week. We don't have a lot to talk about, just a few news stories to be completely honest, so it will be a shorter week. That's good for your ears, good for our mouths.
Mm-hmm. They need the rest. The mouths is what does it.
Yeah. It's good sense. Next week we will be doing our predictions. The week after, it's all
Summer
happening.
Game Fest.
Summer Game Fest, Switch 2 release, you know. Well, actually, I mean, this release is Monday, so next week Switch 2 release is on the Thursday, and then that weekend, Summer Game Fest. So exciting. I took the day off the other day. I moved around my schedule so I can make sure I had the Thursday off to get in and give it a real hot go, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing but Mario Kart for me that day.
Yeah.
Mario Kart. I'm going to be a pro cow player.
Okay.
I'm going to learn how to grind them rails and milk those udders in a way that no one else will be able to do.
Isn't it just drifting?
No, not when you're a cow. You're uddering. Anyway,
I mean, it's kind of crazy that the Switch 2 release is so soon, and it's kind of not. I don't know the hype. I don't know if the hype's that high. You know,
I don't know. It's hard because where are we getting the hype meter from?
social media.
I feel like social media is pretty active talking about it. People are. I mean,
it's not the same as the PlayStation 5.
No, it wasn't the same. I mean, yeah. It's hard.
Is it because it's so rarely available? You know that you probably could pick one up. There's not this forced scarcity.
Not in America. It's all sold out. So yeah, I don't know. Don't know what the go is there. I think it's because it's a sequel from Nintendo. It's potentially less exciting than if it was Nintendo's usual craziness where it was the brand new thing. I mean, going from the Wii U to the Switch, people were excited, a lot more excited for it. And of course, the idea of like a dual console was new and exciting. Whereas this is, for all intensive purposes, Switch Pro. As much as they don't want to go down that road. But
yeah,
like it's the Nintendo Switch but better.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who didn't already care about Nintendo Switch, they're not going to care about this either. So, yeah, I mean, for Nintendo fans, I guarantee if you would like the difference in listening to normal podcasts that covers like old gaming world stuff, I guess. And I would say, as much as we used to have a PlayStation podcast, RIP, I would say this is I don't feel like we lean too heavily. We're like in any particular direction.
No.
Like I play shit everywhere. Like PlayStation is my preferred console of choice, but there are weeks sometimes where I don't play it because I'm playing other stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just not as much as that's my preference. I don't feel like I don't think too hardcore here. My point being, I was listening to House of Mario. They put out an episode after getting hands on at the same event I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking positively on here, trying to explain to you two. But that's two people talking about it and saying, oh my God, I cannot wait until the release date comes soon. I'm so excited to play this thing. I can't fucking wait. I wish I could travel forward in time to get to the release date sooner, you know? So if you go listen to Nintendo fans, like proper Nintendo fans,
okay, maybe that's what I'm not doing.
The hype is there, yeah.
Sorry, I'm behind. Dave Drew, I apologize.
Yeah. because yeah, they were, that was 2.5 hours of I can't wait to this shit to get out. But and I'm on here being like speaking positively, but I'm still not like, oh my god, I need to jump in a time machine to get to it, because I'm not that level. But yeah, so I think the hype's there in the you need the Nintendo niche corners of the gaming sphere, as the Kieran would put it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's run through a couple news stories this week. I'm going to start with this headline. I don't know what there is to discuss about this, but it felt like it was necessary to point out here. So Push Square says, it's over. FTC drops its case against Microsoft Activision buyout. Whew. Earlier this month, it was reported the Federal Trade Commission was still fighting Microsoft Activision Blizzard's buyout, and it wasn't going so well. Now, in perhaps the last significant development, the FTC has dropped its case against the tech giant. Quote, the commission has determined that the public interest is best served by dismissing the administrative litigation. In this case, it is hereby ordered that the complaint in this matter and is hereby dismissed. Microsoft President Brad Smith followed up in the news with a statement calling the decision a quote-unquote victory for players across the country and common sense. Yep.
I mean, the damage was already done, so I mean, what else are you going to do? They already fired all those people.
Sure.
Yeah. It's already pretty much part of Microsoft already, so I mean,
yeah, I've never.
What are they going to do? Reverse it?
Yeah, that's what I've never understood. Like, if they
make Activision give back all the money.
Yeah, if they won, like, what happens? They fly around the globe and take back time. Like, what do you?
Yeah, I guess they'd have to. Yeah, it's the only solution. Or force them to sell it. I don't know.
That's the confusing part. But I mean, after what feels like 22 years talking about that, it is finally over.
Yeah, they wore them down with attrition.
The best way to achieve anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. End of an era.
Sure.
Remember when we first heard the Bethesda news? The Microsoft was buying Bethesda?
No, it was years ago. I can't even remember.
I know.
That's the thing. Look,
we've been around long enough to have been people we talked about.
Yeah. We called a bonus pod.
Emergency. Yeah.
Emergency podcast meeting, Like, I remember leaving work and being like, I got to go home and record. The shit's just dropped, Like,
yeah.
It's an important day, wild day. Yeah, here we are.
And likely nothing like that will ever happen again.
Sure, yeah. Because now if you wake up in the morning and say, Microsoft's purchasing someone who's just like,
No, now they've got a really good case, they're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. All right, Elden Ring movie in the works from director Alex Garland. So basically, Bandai Namco tweeted out to confirm a rumor that had been floating around for a week. I'm not sure where the rumor originally started from, to be completely honest, but I was seeing people posting about this rumor, and at the time, I remember going, "That ain't true." But yeah, Bandai Namco US posted on Twitter saying, we're thrilled to announce that Bandai Namco Entertainment and A24 are teaming up with writer and director Alex Garland to bring From Software's world-renowned video game Elden Ring to life as a live-action film. So the thing that's interesting to me about this is the wording and Alex Garland being involved. And A24 being involved, I guess, is the major thing. So Elden Ring, massive video game. Well, the biggest of last year, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
FromSoft, one of the biggest and most influential video game companies of the last century, I guess. Video game adaptations are currently in the high, positive, people's thoughts about them. A24 just in general being like, let's get involved, and picking this is interesting because although it has all this lore that George R.R. Martin decided to get to do instead of finishing the Song of Ice and Fire books, the story in the game from my understanding, as someone who still has it wrapped on his shelf, is it, you know, like most From Software games, it's between the edges.
It's
it's
environmental storytelling.
Yeah, a lot of environmental stuff. So I'll be interested to see it. And then obviously there's so much. Your main character is just whoever it's an RPG. There's no like direct thing there. So you got all that factor. Then you've got it being a massive fantasy world with all these things. Like the budget would have to be quite high, which A24 has started doing more with Civil War and stuff. Like they've started putting high budgets into films. But to make this properly, it would have to be quite high. But then Alex Garland has said recently in several interviews that he doesn't have any interest in directing for the foreseeable future. He said he never said he was retired from directing, just said he was taking a prolonged break and couldn't see himself coming back at least for several years. Is basically how it was put. Now this doesn't say that he is directing it, and I know that some people have taken the headline as such. That's right. The headline I chose to go with the Exposure Network is Elden Ring movie in the works from director Alex Garland. I've seen other people posting the headline as Alex Garland to direct Elden Ring movie. I don't think teaming up with writer and director Alex Garland to bring it means he's directing it. To me, that says he could be producing it, he could be writing it, he could be directing it, but doesn't necessarily mean he is directing it. I think him like doing the big budget Civil War, and then obviously he's done some Wilder Worlds and stuff with films like Annihilation. Like I could see him directing it, but yeah. What do you think of this news?
I mean, yeah, interesting. I've seen people very happy that they're making an Elden Ring movie, which is weird because it doesn't seem like it would naturally fit for a movie and
no.
That world and that kind of story. I don't know that an RPG where you create your own character has translated to a video game adaptation very well historically.
What's the comparison?
I know we all love the Warcraft movie, and
yeah, should watch that.
Minecraft was so critically acclaimed.
Love Minecraft. That's what A24 is after. They're in chicken job.
I mean, it's. I mean, good on A24 because between this and I believe they're the ones behind the Death Stranding movie. They're getting the most bizarre, craziest video games they can.
Yep.
Obviously, they're aiming to get more big budget and that kind of stuff. And then the Alex Garland of it all. It's like kind of an odd choice. Like he's never. This is not the genre he's generally been associated with. He's more like horror / sci-fi stuff, where this is obviously a lot more fantasy based, historically. So,
I mean, I feel like high fantasy, but I feel like if done right, it would be quite violent. Like
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Which means that I don't think Alex Garland's going to be the director because you would assume it's going to be an action-heavy movie, and he is not really being known as an action-heavy director.
I don't know because if I'm picturing how you'd do the movie, like just based on the general Souls formula, right? Again, because the game's wrapped in self on the shelf still. You wouldn't make you wouldn't make it about any of the small battles. You would just want to like if I think about in general the Souls game feeling of walking into the fog and then like the music kicking in and then you're taking on this massive fight and then you usually die within 5 seconds the first time because you have no idea like what you're doing. But if you were to do that right, you'd want the epicness and you'd want the scale and you'd want, I think, just a real here's where I think the problem comes. You'd want a really well choreographed fight between a lot of these characters. But the problem there is going to be you're going to have a human-sized human actor, presumably, playing versus something that's going to have to be CGI most of the time.
Probably.
And to do that correctly, I think, is where the dilemma is going to come.
Yeah. So you not only need to be able to put good action on screen, you got to be able to work with CGI and all that kind of stuff. And I guess Ex Machina had a lot of CGI. Annihilation had a fair bit of CGI.
I don't think it's
none of his recent work.
I don't think it's like the working of CGI. I just think it's the
being aware of the visual effects.
Yeah,
work that needs to be done.
It's certainly a tricky one. His involvement I do find very interesting because I don't not say he's not someone I wouldn't expect to play video games and stuff like that. But Elden Ring's not something I can picture Alex Garland at home.
No, he's not the name that you would picture being picked to make. He would not be the first choice of director.
No. But that said, if it was announced with someone who's only done sort of sloppy action movies compared to
if Zack Snyder was announced as
then I could not picture it at all. Whereas I could picture him getting a lot of the world building and whatever else right, and then you just need help with the action stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's sort of like hope. Yeah, I don't know. And then again, it could be that someone else is directing it,
or this movie just never get made.
There's always that as well. Like he could just be writing and producing it because he's basically just his whole thing at the moment is he's like, I want to go back to writing. That's what he kept saying in all these interviews. I go back to writing scripts because that's what I enjoyed first and foremost. So I don't know. Interesting. We shall see. Nintendo Switch 2 supports USB mice. So in a stream on Koei Tecmo's YouTube page, Michi Ryu, a producer on Nobungo's Ambition Awakening CE, a game I can't wait to play. Sarcasm. I have no idea what this game is. He's playing on Nintendo Switch 2, and he shows the game with the Joy-Cons, Joy-Con and mouse mode. Then basically says, here's how easy this is, and plugs in the USB mouse to the Switch, and then starts playing with that. Now, the big question here is, I got several questions. A, why hasn't Nintendo confirmed this at all? B, does this mean any game that has Joy-Con mouse support will work with a USB mouse out the box? Or is it only games that advertise as such and the games have it like programmed in to work with mouse support? And then if every game that support mice will Missy Mouse, will that mean Nintendo starts selling mice? Because that is a wild thing to picture walking into EB Games and saying. What do you think?
I mean, maybe. I guess it just depends on how much functionality you need on that other Joy-Con. Is it just one click? Like on the
top button? Like Metroid, it was, you're moving and then you're using the back button still. So,
Yeah, so how many buttons on the Joy-Con are you using while you're using it as a mouse?
Oh, mouse, yeah, using the top, the two. So, like the R1, R2. So 2 clicks.
So just left and right.
Left and right, like a normal mouse, yeah.
So you don't use any of the actual face buttons?
Not in any of the stuff I played, no.
So if that's the case, then that would be fine to use a normal mouse, wouldn't it? So,
do you think this improves the potential of the Switch supporting mouse in games? Like, does if you can just plug in any old USB mouse to the Switch 2, does that mean that this functionality in the games is suddenly
not anymore that it currently has when you've got Joy-Cons that do the same thing?
Yeah, but I guess people even like I think the Joy-Cons was working shockingly well, but my complaint was obviously that it could make the form factor, you might get sore after a while. So let's say that as far as like tracking and whatever else, it's the same as basically a $20 mouse you could plug in, but that thing's going to be more comfortable, presumably.
I guess it depends. Are we talking when they plugging it in when they're playing docked? Is that the only way to do it?
Yeah, that would be the only way to do it. Oh no, technically no, it wouldn't be the only way to do it. You could have the game.
Because you got USB-C that plugs into USB-C mouse.
Yeah.
Assuming you can plug it into the Switch directly and it doesn't do the USB A.
Yeah, that's
assuming there is a USB A slot.
No,
I don't know if
there's not. There's only USB-C.
So it must be just USB-C, yeah.
Must be a USB-C mouse. Or that with an adapter, I guess.
Yeah. Don't know.
Wild world.
Yeah. I mean, if it is, I suspect I guess again it depends on the game. Like if it's Metroid, and obviously the best way to play is with the mouse and the other Joy-Con, people will embrace it and probably use their mouse. I suspect for longer gameplay sessions, if they find like finger cramp on the
Joy-Con,
or you can get one of those mouses that don't move, the rollerball ones. So then you don't have to worry about moving the mouse around. It's stuck in one spot.
If you can do this for every game, why do you reckon Nintendo hasn't actually officially confirmed it before the release of the console?
They forgot.
That's my confusing.
they because they don't have a mouse to sell. That's why.
Might be why. Could be why.
I mean, if they had a mouse that they could give available, and I'm surprised they don't, because there was a mouse in Mario Paint, so just dig those up, change the output.
You're not wrong.
Or they could. I'm sure they could sell a bunch of retro mouses, Nintendo mouses. Those would sell like hotcakes, like every other piece of Nintendo related paraphernalia.
Yeah, wait for them to have like one mouse they put out, and it's on the Nintendo store or whatever in the members.
You have to buy it directly.
Wait for that to be the case,
and it just becomes a collector's item because it's so useless.
Well, it wouldn't be
actively worse.
You could use it with your PC, I guess, if it was
that's true.
It was just a USB mouse. Yeah. PlayStation Stars is ending. So PlayStation has announced on the PlayStation blog that their program they launched in 2022 will be shutting down. Basically, this is an opt-in thing that you could do on the PlayStation app. You could opt into, and then every month you had to opt in to all these challenges, and you get points, and you could use the points to redeem them for gift cards on the store or games directly, or get digital collectibles. No one used it, obviously. On the PlayStation blog, Grace Chen, Vice President, Network Advertising, Loyalty and Licensed Merchandise, said, since launching the program, we've learned a lot from evaluating types of activities our players respond to, and as a company, we are always evolving with player and industry trends. So through this evaluation, we have decided to refocus our efforts, and we're winding down the current version of PlayStation Stars. We'll continue to evaluate our key findings from this program and look into ways of building upon these learnings. From today, you can no longer join the program if you haven't opted in already. Current members will still be able to earn digital collectibles and points up until July 23rd. And then from then until November 2nd, 2026, you have to use the points. Are you going to miss PlayStation Stars, Ash?
Not overly, but this is what happens when we stop doing a PlayStation podcast. Everything goes downhill. People stop using PlayStation Stars because we not remembering to mention it every 2 or 3 months, or whenever they release a cool collectible.
It's true. Could be related.
I think it's directly related. I mean, one thing happened, then the other thing happened. So just draw a line between the two things.
True.
Connected.
Just connected. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm sure some people found value out of it and enjoyed like the experience of collecting all these things and like getting points and redeeming them for like some solid stuff. Like obviously you need to earn a lot of points and do a lot of like buy a lot of stuff and that kind of stuff to get something really of value. But at least you were technically getting something for nothing out of it, which is rarely the case in video games.
I redeemed for a gift card at one stage. I think I had enough points for a $30 gift card. But as far as the digital collectible side, I think the collectibles, some of them looked cool. The problem was there's literally nothing you could do outside.
In one place.
Yeah. You couldn't even like post them directly. You couldn't like pose them and without screenshotting it. There's nothing you could do to like share them on social media.
You can access them on your PlayStation.
Yeah, you can't even access them on your console. Yeah, so I think that's where they failed. Even though some of these collectibles may have been cool and they were doing them themed for games or games anniversaries and all these sorts of things, and some of them, they look cool. But yeah, he's like, what the hell are we doing with this? That's where I think the problem was. You design something for video games, like as an interactive medium, and you give people like no way to really interact with what you've given them. So, I wonder if there's someone out there who's got them all, though. You know, the one person who got super into PlayStation Stars, and this is heartbreaking news for them, and they're like, "Oh, I need to." They're like out there stressing because they've currently got them all, but they're rushing to make sure they complete the last batch. That's the movie I want to watch. You know, so
yeah.
But yeah, either way, make sure you use your points before November 2nd next year. Or before then, because they do expire every 12 months. If you like, so that was the other thing they changed at some point. That made the service for no reason decided to make the service worse like a year ago. We're like, we decided to put like 12 months expiry dates on points now because fuck yous. Like there was no reason. Like
you know. But they also do say they're current. The current version of Stars.
Yeah, they always. That's just like you saying we fucking. What do you call our podcast?
It's retired.
Retired. Yeah. It's just they're leaving the door open for no reason.
Because why not leave the door open?
Kill it. You know?
Why burn bridges?
Don't be afraid. Let it go. Let it die. You know.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to go back to the past to find where to go next. Yeah, that's why sometimes they make movies out of order, out of chronological order.
How often does that happen?
Not very often.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
I know, but the Fast and Furious franchise did. They went back into the past so they could find a future for the franchise again.
All right, you got me there. Final news story for the week. The Last of Us could extend beyond its third announced season. So, if you would, I write now a news story here. If you've joined our podcast discussion in the latest episode, you know I would agree with this statement from Craig Mazin saying that there's no way it could complete it in 3 seasons. In an interview of Collider, Mazin talks about latest episode and how they've changed the creative process this season compared to working the first season. When talking about getting ready for the second season, Mason said, okay, this source material goes way beyond 1 season. And then continued in the interview to say, I think there's a decent chance that season 3 will be longer than season 2, just because the manner of the narrative and opportunities it affords us are a little different. But certainly there's no way to complete this narrative in the 3rd season. Hopefully we'll learn enough to come back and finish it in the 4th. That's the most likely outcome. Obviously, we've been discussing it each and every week over on What Do You Want to Watch? Want to watch a podcast? Last week, literally the last episode we talked about. As this comes out Monday, we haven't new episodes on it yet. That was the one thing we were talking about that week. Like, how the fuck do you wrap this story up in even one more season? It was receiving the more and more closer we got to the end of this season, which now we're 1 episode away. It becomes more and more obvious that like there's just no way to justify doing this in 3 seasons. It just doesn't seem
unless they increase the episode count dramatically.
Yeah, dramatically. Well, yeah, to the point that's basically 2 seasons and 1 season. At that point, you could see it happening. But on their current episode count and structure,
or cutting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like to do it in a proper way. What do you reckon? They're just HBO obviously have greenlit the 3rd season. They did that pretty much straight after the 1st episode. This season drops. Do you reckon that's just the story that we're going to see happen? They we wait for the 1st episode to drop. They're like, people are still interested. Yep, have that last season.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's you would think that they'd already have a plan and breakdown of how many episodes you need for this show already. You would have like a little bit more for thinking of how much time you need and story.
I think don't have it there, but in another part of the interview, he does talk about how they roughly know that they need 4 seasons, but they're just focusing on it season by season, so they don't get too focused on the end. They're just focusing on telling the story as a season.
Or are they eking this out because we all read the story this week that Naughty Dog is working on another secret unannounced game? Is that Last of Us Part 3? I'm going to put it out there. It's Last of Us Part 3, and they're just eking the show out until they can line it up with the game coming out, and then they can adapt the next game and continue on.
Let me tell you why it's not The Last of Us Part 3. 100% why. Because Neil Druckmann is not involved with that game.
How do you know?
Because he said so.
Neil Druckmann, known liar. No.
I didn't include.
He lied to you?
I didn't include the news story here because I was like, oh, there's not much to talk about with that, especially because we know it's not The Last of Us Part 3.
Or is it?
No, it's definitely not. The interview with Neil
could be.
Let me find the fucking story now. God
damn. Maybe it's not Last of Us Part 3. Maybe it's Last of Us : something.
Let me find the news.
And then they've got like a spin-off thing to fill in the gap until they figure out how they're going to do Last of Us Part 3. This news comes from Neil
Druckmann's conversation last week on the Press X to Continue podcast. He shared that he's helping as a producer on this project, but is also in more of a mentor role and is mostly just giving feedback. I write on explosionnetwork.com, it's unlikely this project has anything to do with The Last of Us.
The Last of Us, Jackson. He's just a tower defense game.
Leave me alone. Make it end.
And you just go around and talk to all the villagers in Jackson. Push Seth around.
Kill him. I don't remember what I'm saying. Yeah, seasons 4. Yep, good. We need that.
Yeah. But then again, it raises the question, where are you going to stop the story? Are you going to stop at the exact same spot we think that season 2 is going to end?
What do you mean? I feel like we know where season 2 is going to end. We'll find out in a couple days.
But then is just season 3 all Abby's story up to that point again?
I think season 3 70% Abby. Up to that point.
And season 4 is a coda of the events of the last 8th of the game.
I think so, because there's so. I think as long
because that could be fleshed out dramatically.
Yeah, as long people complain often that the part 2 is such a long game. I think it's a long game, but the last several acts of that game, last few hours, like 5-6 hours, is rushed. Like there's a lot they could have, So, yeah, all right. No. Heretic, Interlactic, the Heretic Prophet. Also, they what's his face? The kid playing is going to be in that game. Jesse.
Oh, young Bazzino.
Yeah, young Bazzino.
Cool.
So apparently, they just, also Tony Dalton's apparently in it. Like that's where
I think we knew that.
We knew that. Yeah, he's in the background on photos. But
apparently he got cast off his appearance here.
Yes, yeah. Apparently Neil Druckmann is basically just secretly doesn't give a fuck about the HBO series. He's just there casting actors for his latest game from the TV show. Come work on when this is old news. This is old video.
He's going about the Kojima. He's doing the Kojima thing like in reverse.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
He's made the show and then got casting all the celebrities in it.
Yeah.
The game. Yeah.
Good for them,
Good for him.
All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Arcade Couch. Of course, check out all the most of the news stories that are over on explosion.com. Check out all the other great news things over there. Check out all the other podcasts, including What Do You Want to Watch for our Last of Us spoiler discussions, where we'll be talking about the season finale this week. Follow us on Blue Sky at explosionhour.com, Instagram, explosionpod, Twitter at explosionhour.com. Sorry, I meant TikTok, fuck Twitter. All those fun places. Support us on Ko-fi, explosionhour.com/support us. And until next week, same time, same couch. Have a great week. Goodbye.
So do you think there's going to be the state of play during this Summer Games period?
Don't care. It'll be trash
for my
either
predictions.
Way. You know, state of play is the one thing they can announce where the PlayStation's like, I can wake up tomorrow morning and it'll be like, state of play announced. I go, cool. I'm sure that'll be so exciting. Like my excitement level for any announced state of play is 0. And that's why I killed the PlayStation first.